think I can record.
Yeah, so let's meet you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for coming. My name is Austin Okere. I'm the founder and CEO of the Computer Warehouse Group. This company is a company that was founded in 1992, and it's grown today to become a company of a turnover of about $120 million per annum and a staff complement of about 550 people in Ghana, Nigeria, Uganda, and Cameroon.
Congratulations on those achievements. I think it hasn't been very, very easy for you to have gotten to that level. Operating in Nigeria, how will you say it is compared to other African countries where you have gotten your offices?
I think, obviously, a lot of the opportunities are in Nigeria, clearly, because of the size of the economy and the population, and of course the fact that there is very deep demand for our oil. But if you look at other economies as well, take for instance Ghana, it's becoming a preferred headquarters for companies that are bringing their operations into West Africa for the reason of the stable power supply, better infrastructure and security. And if you look at a country like Uganda, they've got very good natural habitat, which attracts people. That's why you have the biggest lake in the world. So they all have their different attractions. But clearly, Nigeria, in terms of opportunities, is a head and shoulder above a lot of the countries which we operate in.
You said that we are more or less above other countries. Can you shed more light on that? And are we actually exploiting those opportunities beyond what we're doing now?
I think if you are looking at a retail operation, a retail mindset, then clearly a population of about 160 million is a gold mine compared to Ghana, which is about 25 million. So if you look at it from any angle, the number of items which you're going to sell and replace in that kind of population, it makes the business much more attractive in terms of economies of scale. However, it's not everybody that can benefit from these economies of scale of population, because sometimes you're coming from the enterprise perspective. And in the enterprise perspective, you now start looking at which are the companies I can do business with. The manufacturing, the telcos, the oil and banks. Are those sectors, are they growing? And so you are depending on those companies to grow so that you can grow with them by building on the back of the retail. So if you're doing business with the bank is banking people and companies. You are hoping that the bank is increasing their business so that the business you're doing with the bank will also increase in terms of maybe storage that you need for storing their banking records and so on. If the bank is not growing because they are not able to tap fully into the populace, then your business is also stunted. Today, as I speak to you, we understand that only 20% of Nigerians are banked. The balance 80% are not banked. So if we're able to bring those 80% into the formal banking sector, then of course, they will need more kits, more technology, and then we'll do better. So, having said that, Nigeria offers you the numbers, but Nigeria also offers you a higher per capita in terms of the oil revenue that contributes significantly to the economic life, to the external reserves, So, in that extent, Nigeria is a head and shoulder above. Ghana has just discovered oil. Uganda has just discovered oil. But it's going to take some time to reach those commercial quantities of production which Nigeria has reached. A close competitor probably will be Angola, which is producing, I understand, at about 1.5 million barrels per day versus our 2.3, 2.4. But the difference is that Angola seems to be exploring more and therefore increasing their reserves, and anytime that they get the green light from OPEC, they can increase their production. On the other hand, our own exploration, I understand, is not as vast as it should be.
Okay. Let me now bring that home. Recently, the issue of cashless has been all over the place. Is a Computer Warehouse Group playing within the cashless system in Nigeria? If you are playing, what exactly is being offered by Computer Warehouse?
I think we will say that we're probably one of the leading players in that arena. Even before the CBN had announced the cashless policy, we had a system where we were going with our product in conjunction with Fundamo. The product is called Fundamo. Fundamo is now part of Visa anyway. Fundamo of South Africa. It's been acquired by Visa. But we have that technology for mobile money. And today we have in our data center service which we provide to banks and microfinance houses, hosting them on our mobile money platform, where they do transactions from our platform, and we charge them the transaction. So we have been doing that even before the announcement of cashless Lagos. Before that, we also had a platform for microfinance banks, because of course microfinance banks, they don't have the budget to buy their whole IT. And they would like to use Finacle. Finacle is the application which we have supplied and support in about 14 of the 24 banks. So it's a dominant application. But in terms of having it as a single tenancy in your environment, you need to pay for the licenses for the hardware and then have your whole team of technical operators to operate it. Many microfinance banks will be happy to run off a software from somewhere on a software as a service basis and pay per use. So we have a software that they are using. We're talking to one of the major telecoms.
Is it the Finacle one you are talking about now?
It's for our own banking application. We would like to bring Finacle into that, but we have not finalized with Infosys, which owns the IP rights to bring Finacle into the cloud, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think that probably happens in the next couple of months. They are also accelerating, knowing that cloud is the future, but they need to get some legal aspects of it right. But whilst they are doing that, we are not waiting. We have gone with our own in-house developed application to provide this service for microfinance banks. There are tier 2 banks that will be happy to take Finacle for their operations if it's available on the cloud, and it will soon be available. If you look at your ATMs, for instance, where you can do a lot of your cashless transactions, apart from withdrawing money, you can pay your DSTV bills and so on. Out of the 9,000 odd ATMs in Nigeria, we have supplied and support about 3,000, which is about a third. So each time you go to the ATM, chances are that 1 out of 3 is supplied and supported by us. And it's not just the ATM, because now on the weekends, even if the ATM is in a branch, there's no power. So we provide power backup and batteries. And then the ATM should be able to link to your banking application in order to know whether you have the balance or not to dispense money. So we provide the communication links. So we've offered this as a service to some banks that don't want to own the ATMs. They just say, provide me this service, I'll do my cash only. So we charge them per quarter for that service. Some say, I'll buy outright, and so we sell the ATMs to them. But about 3,000 ATMs are being supported by us.
Now, while you are talking, you made mention of cloud computing, and that's very interesting. In Nigeria, do you see the market readily available?
Clearly, there is a market. People do not just want to buy things and then replenish them after 3 years and again. People are happy, for instance, to use Gmail, small businesses and so on. They don't buy any server. You just provision yourself. You go in and put in your details, and then you create a Gmail account, and suddenly you can receive and send mails. How nice will it be if by provisioning yourself on the hospital management system, you can run your hospital? Or if you can provision yourself on the financial system, you can run your small bank or microfinance bank. So clearly, people want to use this service. The major stumbling block is the broadband, which is not available. Because when you talk about cloud, then you talk about broadband, because cloud is going to be hungry on communication. But now we have 80% of our broadband on the shore is not being moved in because of lack of last mile lights to do that, and lack of conducive operating environment. There are some telecom companies that have a backbone around the country, and maybe there should be a way by which they can discuss with the last milers, like DCC, which is one of our subsidiaries, to take that infrastructure and bring it inland to the last mile, to people's doorstep. That has not succeeded very well. So maybe the costing has not been rightly defined, or the definition of roles is not clear cut. I would expect, for instance, the telecoms to sit back as wholesalers and sell bandwidth to last milers, who will now vend it to enterprises and to individuals. But you find that the telecom companies go there to compete in the enterprise with the people that are supposed to take the last mile. Now, the telecom companies are already struggling on the voice. They pay so much fines. I don't think they have the bandwidth to add data to it at this point in time directly. They can add data to it indirectly through partnership with last milers, like DCC networks.
So you more or less you are canvassing for a better partnership model between the operators and owners of, or the carriers themselves.
I think so. I think this is what will break the deadlock in terms of the hold on broadband in Nigeria. And I think that perhaps the regulator and Ministry of Comtech have a role to play. Perhaps they can say to the carriers, I'll give you right of way, but I also need you to do X and Y. I'll give you a reduced cost on your right of way, but I want you to ensure that you give the bandwidth, the backbone bandwidth, at a certain cost to the last miler, so that he can put in that investment that is required to take it to the customers who need it. Now the customers don't have it. I doubt that you have broadband in your office. You may think you have, but if you can't watch YouTube in your office, probably you don't have good communication to qualify as broadband.
Okay, you are known, or more or less, Compuer Warehouse is known for being a good partner with the Finacle. How good has the partnership been over the years?
I think this is probably one of the classic cases of partnership that can be copied in terms of what we have achieved and the trust and integrity of that is in that partnership. We met Infosys, which is the owner of the Finacle banking application, in 1999, just before the Y2K, and many companies were looking at changing their internal systems in order to be compliant. So that was a good time. In 2000, we had 3 banks that came onto the Finacle platform at the same time. We had STB, we had, at that time it was called Comet Bank, it became First Atlantic, it became Finbank, and now it's been acquired by FCMB.
Yeah.
And then we also had Oceanic Bank. And then eventually we had big banks like First Bank and UBA. Today we have 14 banks, including Stanbic and the rest. And there is more requests or more interest in banks that I can't mention their name now that want to move over to Finacle. There's something we're doing right. It's not that Finacle is the best developed software, but what I think is a major strength of the partnership is that the local absorption of the technology to provide effective local support and implementation has helped. So you don't want to wait, you don't have to wait for people to come from India to come and implement or to solve a problem. We as CWG can do that. At every point in time, we have 2 of our people there at Infosys on the global help desk, so that they are taking difficult problems from global customers. And they also have 2 of their people here in Nigeria that are looking at the problems that are coming from Nigeria. The whole point is that all this information fits back into the future release of the software that makes it better. So the combination of all this has made the partnership between Infosys and Compuer Warehouse on the Finacle application to be a model to be copied.
Okay, recently the National IT Development Agency, NIDA, made a pronouncement in terms of usage of foreign computers in federal ministries and public service system in Nigeria. How do you see that excelling or making the market better, knowing fully well that all of us are, or you are part of the ICT sector?
I think in any economy, local content and anything to encourage local content is for the greater good. It reduces joblessness, and then it also makes it possible for the industry to grow. If you take the Korean industry, their cars were not the best, but because of consistent support by the government, they've improved it to the extent that it is challenging the Japanese cars. 20 years ago, the Japanese cars were in the same situation, challenging British and American cars, or European and American cars. And today, the Japanese cars have become the standard. So we may say that we are not there yet in terms of the technology to produce computers that will probably compete at the top end, the server end. But whatever we can do to start, let's do it. So if we're talking about the end user devices, desktops, maybe handheld phones and so on, if there's a way we can encourage people to go into that business by guaranteeing some patronage, provided they meet certain quality standards, let's do it. But in terms of cutting our nose to spite our face, let's not do that, because we don't have the technology now to manufacture large servers, enterprise servers. So for those, let's continue to partner with the global manufacturers. There are low-hanging fruits there, because even if they bring those servers in town or in country, they need local partners to install them and to support them. And this is how we begin to learn about the technology. Before you know it, we'll probably start assembling such high-grade servers here as well.
Yeah.
But it's step by step. Anything to do with the local content enablement, it's in the right direction.
Okay, Computer Warehouse Group has been very known to be very passionate about education system in Nigeria. Can you share some of the things Computer Warehouse has done in terms of supporting education system in the country?
Education is what.
And how do you think you can make it better?
As a CSR mandate. So a lot of the CSR we do is around education, and we won an award in 2011 as the best CSR in our category. So what we do is specific to universities, tertiary. With Unilag, we're discussing with them about the IT park, where we put up a park and also provide faculty to bring the practical aspect of computing. And this is from the successful academy, which we have run. We call it the CWG Academy. We run it in-house. We went into that because there was a dearth of skills, and we couldn't get the value from the people who were employed. So we set up the academy to promote or to provide skills for our own use. It became so popular, and many people started coming to the academy. People that were already on a job were coming for the academy. We graduate 50 people per quarter. So we take the best 10%, our customers take some, the competition takes some. That is pumping and adding into the skills pool in Nigeria. So that's why we discussed with Unilag about the ICT park. We support the best graduating students in the computer sciences department in the University of Lagos, University of Ghana, and Okere University, and provide them with automatic employment to join our service, in addition to giving them the scholarship, the notebook, and in case they want to go further. These are little things which we do, but which mean a lot, to the particular people, to the investors.
Okay. Recently, the CEO of Dell was in Nigeria, and or rather, the founder of Dell was in Nigeria, and being one of the Dell partners in Nigeria, how was the visit, and what could you say is the impact of that visit to Computer Warehouse and its customers?
You recall that Computer Warehouse is probably now the oldest partner of Dell in Nigeria. We started the company on being a strict Dell partner. We were not doing any other system, just only Dell supply and support. So we became very close with Dell, and were able to then learn from their best practices. They opened up to us and trained our people and certified them, and then gave us tips on how to run a company successfully. So Dell's coming, for me, showed commitment, because before then, 2010, we had gone to visit Michael in Texas with some of our enterprise customers, but that were looking at virtualization, server consolidation, storage consolidation. And as a result of that visit, we were able to get those customers to be convinced We had also gotten the technology to provide this. Probably the leaders in the country now. We are in partnership with EcoBank for all their 32 branches globally, providing them with this service. With First Bank, with UBA, with MTN. So for me, it's coming to Nigeria by Michael is showing that it's betting on Nigeria as an emerging market to invest, and that will signal other similar companies to also do the same. We seem to be losing the battle a little bit at this point in time to Ghana because Ericsson set up their West African head office, head technical support center in Ghana. There are other companies that are doing likewise. Michael coming here probably shows the way to other people that, listen, Nigeria is still a place to consider when you want to do business. Some of the things that we thought we discussed at the meeting were, one, can we have training centers here so that we don't spend so much money on flight and accommodation for the few people we send for training? If the training and certification can be done for West Africa here in Nigeria, then of course we can train more people and we can provide more services to the customer and sell more there. Number two, can we have what we call the Executive Briefing Center? This is actually a center where we call it Touch and Feel. You find it in Austin, Texas, you find it in London, you find it in Ireland. Can we have one for Africans here? The visa process, let's say somebody wants to do a big project, they want to see your technology, you want their CEO or CTO to come to America to see the look and feel, and the visa process is so long and sometimes so unwinding. If it's available here, we can take more people to the competence center to touch and feel and give them the comfort. Three, should we look at even having a data center? Today, Dell is going very seriously into cloud. Can we have a Dell data center that is of minimum of category 3, where people will now have the confidence to co-locate or to take services as software as a service, and then it will give Dell the big advantage or first mover advantage in that area. Probably being the first manufacturer to put down a data center here, and they have the technology and the money, to do that. So these are some of the things which we discussed, and we told Michael that it would be a good idea to look at.
So you think that these things will also translate into some goodwill for your customers?
I think so, definitely. I mean, I happen to sit on the advisory board of the Minister of Communication Technology, and I know how passionate she is about getting these global technology companies to come and partner our universities to provide training here, to provide competence centers here, and wherever I have the opportunity to talk to such companies, I echo the same feeling because I'm equally passionate about that. It will benefit our customers, of course.
That reminds me, the Ministry of Communication has just clocked 1 year. Looking back from where we are coming from, what would you say should be, or what would be your review of the ministry up to date?
I think they've done remarkably well in the short period of time that they've been existing, 1 year only. This is probably the youngest ministry in Nigeria. But if you look at the initiatives trying to carve a framework for ICT, call it the ICT policy, whatever you want to call it. But the passion is to get people to meet their government through online, as is done everywhere in the world. If you want to register a company, you have to go all the way to Abuja. I mean, from Lagos to Abuja is not that difficult. But if you are going to come from, say, Calabar, even Calabar is not that difficult. So remote places, does it mean that you shouldn't set up companies? You first have to go to probably Benin to Lagos and then go to Abuja, and then you have to take a hotel. Elsewhere in the world, it's online. You want to register a company, you do that online. You want to fill your tax assessment, it's online. Today, if you want to apply for a visa, it's online. To get the appointment, then the VSF people will take your passport in, and then they will grant you the visa, or give you reasons why you need to personally come if it is beyond what is routine. So we can adopt the same, and I think this is what the ministry is trying to do. It's trying to strengthen her appendages such as NIDA, Galaxy backbone so that they can do more of becoming the government ICT company, NCC. This is the first time we've announced a fine for technology companies or for carriers. And I'm not saying that we should make a habit of fining carriers, but there had to be a signal that the NCC is serious in saying let the quality of service be of minimum acceptable standard. I would be happy if that money can go into beefing up the infrastructure and improving the quality of service. But clearly there's a lot of initiatives that the ministry have embarked on, and there's a lot of achievement that they have. They are also probably the most listening ministry because there's been so many fora where they come to brief the stakeholders, which will be the ICT community, of what they are planning to do, what they have achieved, and then take feedback on what they should do.
Okay, moving forward now, what will you say that we are looking at the ministry achieving in the next 1 year?
I think if we can reach a point where people are identified by a card. Let me give you an example. In Ghana, their ID card is still in process, but in the meantime, they did a very good voters registration. So the voters registration card is a biometric card of good standard, which is now being accepted in banks as means of identification. We have done several ID cards, several voters cards. Even the last voters card I got, my local government cannot accept it as an ID card. So talk less of a bank, and it's supposed to be biometric, probably spend the same amount of money. I think if we can do something like that, I think if we can have a way by which we can enable local players to help in computerizing the government agencies, working with, of course, a Galaxy backbone, for instance. But the pace is slow in terms of the whole automation process of Nigeria. The more automation we have, the better. The less subjectivity. Custom goods, is there a way by which there can be more automation in it so that you complete a lot of your documentation online so that it just goes for vetting and only the ones which need further clarification will require that you physically then, if we can achieve that, it makes the wheel of economy go faster.
Don't you think that we need some political will to get to the level you are looking at us reaching, especially from our political class? Because these things at times trickles down from the head. They will be there as ministers and some other people, and if they are not too conversant with the ICT and its values, giving certain approvals becomes difficult.
And again, I must give it to the minister because just my recent trip to Abuja, I went into the DBI, Digital Bridge Institute, and I was amazed at the number of civil servants that have been trained on ICT. I understand that there is a similar institute campus in Lagos at Oshodi, and there is one in Kano. I understand that there's plans to build one in Ijoku Castle, which means there's going to be one in Enugu, in Asaba. And I forget where the third one is going to be. But the training that is taking place of government officials, I think that appreciation will then help in terms of when you say the political will, because these are the people that when they have been trained, they begin to look at how they were doing the job before and how they can do it now, and then begin to demand the automated way of doing it. We shouldn't just stop at the federal. We should take it down to the states and train the state civil servants, and as well as the local government civil servants. And I think once people are aware, then the need is created. It will also rest on broadband, because at the end of the day, the more technology savvy you become, the more you need the broadband. You have an iPad. You can imagine if they shut you down from internet connection. Let's say you don't have a SIM card in it, and you don't have a network connection in it. What's the use of this iPad? It doesn't even have where to store information. You have the iPad because you are using it to access the cloud. And that makes you demand more and more bandwidth. That makes you use more and more services. That makes you So at the end of the day, I think the political will come from an appreciation of what is possible. And that comes from the training, which I see the Digital Bridge Institute doing quite a bit of, but I think it may not be enough. There may be need for more to be involved in that education process.
Okay, sir. What would be your advice to Nigerians on ICT adaptation and usage?
ICT is a double-edged sword. It makes life simple. It can also make life complex if you don't put in the correct security. For the benefit of us, we are looking at the mistakes that those that went before us made. If you go to America, identity theft in America is a big issue, and so we need to, as we are clamoring for more use of ICT, more liberal opening of, say, banking doors to ICT. We're talking about cashless, transfer money here and there. We have to put the security ring fence to make sure that people are not disillusioned and then go back to their old, to their things of Israel. So the security aspect. My problem is that in Nigeria, it seems as if the onus is in the person that has been wrongly debited. Whereas overseas, unless the bank can prove that that debit was taken by you, it is refunded. If that becomes the case in Nigeria, then I think a lot more of the banks will be looking at putting in the required security. I must also commend that the changing of the ATM cards from magnetic stripe to chip and pin has greatly improved the security of that medium. Many more people are more comfortable with it, but it's never enough. We can always do more in terms of providing that security that will make people rest assured and will make them adopt the technology.
Do you have any reservation on a recent report concerning the sector where you are playing?
Well, I know that there's some recommendation about mergers
and acquisitions.
Yeah. I think you can't really look at a theoretical aspect of it only. Perhaps from the theoretical aspect, it will be economical and make a lot of sense too. But you have to look at the practicality, what is on the ground, and it takes a lot of consultation. People have to see the benefits. People have to see how am I protected, what's in it for me, what's there for the greater good, and it takes some time. But I agree with the principle of what the report is saying, that it could be sometimes unwieldy to have five agencies doing the same thing. Why not just put them together? But even if we look at private sector equivalent, you and I know that base station sharing is probably the best way by which we can accelerate the provision of telecom services across the country. But how many telecom companies are sharing base stations? Sometimes you see one base station, then beside it you see another. We're talking about private sector. Why then don't they just merge the base station, have one base station? Then you start thinking about the practicality. Who provides the fuel for the generator of the base station? How do we share costs in case we need to repair or replace the generator? Am I sure that this man will do his own? So those templates, those principles have to be agreed. And the two telecom companies have to see that it's workable, and they have to see what's in it for the greater good of the both of them. Then they will be the ones clamoring for it. I think it will happen, but it's happening quite slowly. I haven't said that there are some base stations that are shared. So I think that the mergers in the sector are necessary, but I think that there is a whole lot of consultation that have to go in, and there are also people involved. Chimamanda Adichie says the facts is one side, and then the right is on the other side. So when you say 70 people died, it's just 70 people that died. It's a fact. But when you look at your relative that has 7 children and the housewife that has died, it becomes a different story entirely. Then there is a motive implication in that. So when you say merge, people are looking at, oh, I'm going to lose my job. We just say that, okay, fine, 500,000 people were made redundant, maybe. But the human side of the story is the same thing that I've told you. You're somebody that has no other means of living. So we have to look at how to make it practical, human, and then implement it.
Coming back to the issue of the state, the security, do you think the Nigerian government is applying ICT adequately in terms of combating insecurity in the country? Or what do you think should be done?
I've seen some efforts. I mean, if you go to, especially Abuja, you see that they're putting cameras. I feel that the cameras are low with solar panels. It's a good initiative, but is it sustaining? Is it something that we're doing that we're serious about, or is it just an award of a contract? You know, we can do more, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are people that are already using such technology. If you go to the UK and they're looking for a criminal or something, it just takes for them to review their CCTVs, and they'll say, okay, zone it down to here. So much technology is available which we can use, but we must have the willpower to look beyond the contract and say, how can this thing help the citizenry, and have a structure of a continuity of that thing. Not that we'll just go and put those things, then when this government goes, or when the minister goes, the whole thing becomes a white elephant. There must be sincerity of purpose. But the technology exists, we're not using enough of it, we can use more. And we don't have to reinvent it, and we can afford it if we can maybe cut down on the wastage in the system.
All right. Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.